Welcome to Close to Peak. What happens when you only seek pleasure? If pleasure were the only important thing in life, why do those who chase it relentlessly end up feeling unfulfilled? This is a question that few dare to confront directly. Deep down, everyone desires pleasure. But do they truly understand what they are seeking? The modern world offers us an endless menu of pleasures. Unchecked consumption, social media, food, sex, drugs, power, and yet we have never been more anxious, depressed, or disconnected from ourselves. So, what is wrong? The problem is not pleasure itself, but our relationship with it. Society teaches us that the more pleasure we experience, the happier we will be. This turns us into insatiable seekers, constantly chasing the next dopamine hit. But there is a flaw in this game. Pleasure, when pursued unconsciously, does not provide lasting satisfaction. Instead, it becomes a prison. One pleasure leads to another, and then another, trapping us in a never-ending cycle. The danger lies here. The more addicted we become to pleasure, the weaker we grow. Consider addiction. Whether it's food, social media, or drugs, they all follow the same pattern. At first, pleasure seems sufficient, but soon, it ceases to satisfy. What was once a choice becomes a necessity. This happens because the human brain quickly adapts to stimuli, making them less effective over time. As a result, the person requires increasingly higher doses of pleasure to feel the same level of satisfaction. But that satisfaction never truly comes. This trap is not new. Philosophers across different eras have recognized that the endless pursuit of pleasure can lead not to happiness, but to emptiness. Since ancient times, one question has persisted. What is the ideal relationship between humans and pleasure? Should pleasure be avoided, controlled, or embraced without limitation? Among these thinkers, one name stands out: Epicurus. Most people associate him with hedonism, assuming he advocated for excess. But to understand the nature of pleasure, we must first understand what Epicurus actually taught. Epicurus was one of the greatest thinkers of antiquity, yet also one of the most misunderstood. When people hear Epicureanism, they imagine endless feasts, indulgence, and a life filled with boundless pleasures. However, this perception is far from the truth. Epicurus did not promote unrestrained pleasure. On the contrary, he taught that pleasure should be pursued with reason and moderation. To him, true pleasure was not the kind that enslaves, but the kind that liberates. The highest form of pleasure, in his philosophy, was not excess, but a state of tranquility, free from pain and distress, a concept called ataraxia, or inner peace. In other words, the goal was not to chase constant stimulation, but to eliminate unnecessary suffering. Epicurus categorized pleasures into three types. 1. Natural and necessary pleasures. Fundamental to survival and well-being, such as eating, drinking water, shelter, and meaningful friendships. 2. Natural but unnecessary pleasures. Enjoyable but not essential for happiness, such as luxury foods or material comforts. 3. Vain and unnecessary pleasures. The pursuit of wealth, power, or fame, which often brings more suffering than fulfillment. The trap of excessive pleasure lies in this third category. Those who live only for superficial pleasures never find peace. Desires multiply. What was once satisfying quickly becomes insufficient. The rich crave more wealth, the famous seek greater attention, the addict demands ever-increasing doses of pleasure. And what happens to those who ignore this lesson? We see people every day who seem to have everything yet feel an unbearable emptiness inside. What is the point of gaining the whole world if the price is the loss of inner peace? Epicurus warned us, True freedom comes from wisely choosing our pleasures. When we understand which desires truly matter, we achieve lasting happiness. But when we blindly chase every pleasure, we become slaves to our own impulses. Arthur Schopenhauer had no illusions about human nature. To him, life was not a pursuit of happiness, but an endless cycle of desires and disappointments. His philosophy exposes the illusion that pleasure can provide lasting fulfillment. Schopenhauer described life as a constant movement between wanting and dissatisfaction. A person desires something, experiences a brief moment of pleasure upon obtaining it, but soon, that pleasure fades and is replaced by a new desire. The cycle never ends. Pleasure is temporary, but desire is infinite. This pattern is visible everywhere. Someone dreams of a new car, buys it, feels satisfied for a while, but soon craves a newer model. A person chases status or wealth, but even after achieving their goals, they realize there is always someone with more power, more money, more influence. And so, the cycle continues. Schopenhauer called this mechanism the wheel of desire, a relentless motion that never allows true satisfaction. The more we surrender to pleasure, the more enslaved we become. This cycle was once limited by life's hardships, but today's world has intensified it. Consider social media. What happens when someone mindlessly scrolls for hours? They are unconsciously seeking small doses of pleasure. A funny video, a novelty, a compliment, a like. But it is never enough. Pleasure fades quickly, and the search begins again. Platforms are designed to keep this cycle spinning, ensuring that people never reach full satisfaction. Schopenhauer's unsettling truth is this: pleasure can never fill the void of human existence. Those who live only for pleasure are doomed to constant dissatisfaction, because there will always be a new desire lurking in the shadows. Can we escape the trap? Is it possible to break free from this cycle, or is it an inevitable fate? Friedrich Nietzsche had no patience for comforting illusions. He saw the pursuit of pleasure as a sign of weakness, a way for people to escape reality rather than face it. To him, true growth did not come from seeking comfort, but from overcoming struggle and hardship. Nietzsche believed that an authentic life required effort, challenges, and pain. Those who only seek ease, he warned, remain weak. Strength is forged through struggle. Pain, when overcome, transforms us into something greater. This idea is embodied in his concept of the Übermensch, Overman, the person who refuses to be ruled by instincts, who faces challenges head-on, and who shapes their own existence with courage. Two kinds of people emerge. The first seeks only easy pleasures, avoids difficulties, and always chooses the path of least resistance. Their life may be comfortable, but it is empty. When faced with hardship, they crumble. The second embraces pain as part of growth. They train, work hard, and push their limits. They suffer, but they become stronger. In the end, they achieve not just pleasure, but deep fulfillment. We see this most clearly in sports. An elite athlete could choose an easy life, indulging in pleasure without effort. Instead, they commit to grueling training, endure pain, and test their limits. What is the result? Victory and self-actualization. While many chase instant gratification, the athlete endures hardship to achieve something far greater. The secret lies in balance. Sigmund Freud added another perspective. He argued that humans are driven by the pleasure principle, seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. But life imposes limits, and at some point, we realize that not all desires can be instantly fulfilled. This is where the reality principle comes in, learning to delay gratification, endure setbacks, and face life's challenges. Those who fail to grasp this become prisoners of pleasure, unable to tolerate frustration, addicted to instant rewards. So what is the answer? Balance. Epicurus showed that true pleasure comes from moderation. Schopenhauer revealed the illusion of endless desire. Nietzsche taught that pain can be a tool for growth. Freud demonstrated that true maturity requires self-discipline. The key is not rejecting pleasure, but understanding it. Enjoy life's pleasures, but don't become dependent on them. Recognize the limits of satisfaction. Accept that pain is part of growth. Because in the end, fleeting pleasure may be tempting, but a life of purpose and meaning will always be more valuable. You should subscribe the channel if you want more content.